Good morning, everyone, and first and foremost, good morning, ladies. It's the very first meeting where I have to search for the men in the room. That's a perfect view, I think. Pericles just said it, in my capacity as the head of the Division for Nuclear Disarmament and Non-Proliferation, I had the honor to be part of this project right from the first ideas back in 2014. I remember us sitting just around the corner for 2 hours going through the concept, how could we do this whole educational project, how can we ensure that more women are enabled to have a real say in these disarmament and non-proliferation matters. And one of the first and essential steps, and that's part and parcel of the idea itself, was education. Because how are we supposed to make a knowledgeable contribution to these matters if we're not trained for it, if we don't know the technical details? Because sometimes these matters get extremely technical, I can tell you. And we also know it's not one person who can do it, and it's not going to happen overnight. That's clear. But somebody has to kick it off. Somebody has to start the whole movement. And that's why I'm happy that we are starting a process which brings education, but also, and that's the second, I think, as important part, such a job fair together to say, okay, what do I do with that education? How do I move on? How do I enter into this career? And therefore, we welcome this project, and we're happy to be one of the sponsors of it. And just to give you an idea, when I started working in this area 3 years ago, the usual setup of a room, and that's why I'm so happy to see this audience today, was there was one woman, two. I was at a meeting in Tokyo last week. We were out of 40 people working on nuclear disarmament. There were 5 women who were heads of delegation. The rest are still men. So there's still a way to go. We count on you all, I can tell you already. And let me just pick out a few numbers which I think are important in the context of 1325. And it's a few numbers, but please, I think they are very memorable. There have been studies which found out that women's participation increases the probability of a peace agreement to last at least 2 years by 20%. And by 30%, the probability of a peace agreement lasting 15 years. So we have a contribution to make. Another one, an analysis of 40 different peace agreements found out, over the time frame since the Cold War, that in cases where women were able to exercise a strong influence in the negotiation process, there was a much higher chance that an agreement would be reached, and that if women groups did not have any influence on it. And I think another fact to remember, 1325 was actually passed because of the recognition that sustainable security is impossible without involving women. Resolution 1325 calls for increased representation of women at peace negotiations, at all levels of decision-making regarding security, and of course, the inclusion of women in post-conflict situations. However, we are still underrepresented. And we need to be empowered. Women need to be empowered to do this, to be able to take their fair share and their place. And that's why we need qualified women to do that. So I applaud you, not only to have come to the forum, to be interested in this topic, but I also encourage you to take this chance. There's a lot to do in the areas of disarmament and non-proliferation, to go on and pursue a career in this field. And I keep my fingers crossed for you and hope to see at least a dozen of you in the near future in this career. Thank you very much.